waiting for YouTube stream to actually start, and they should be able to hear me now. YouTube, y'all should be able to hear me now. So back to what I was saying. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was going to run as a Democrat. Democrats did whatever it is they did to basically block him out from being able to even get as far as he wanted to go in the primary. So he ended up basically was going to run as an independent. When it became clear that he couldn't win, he went to what I heard, and I think he said this himself, that he went to both parties and basically proposed, hey, pick up what I want to do, my plan, and let's see how it goes. And it's from what I heard, y'all can tell me if I got this wrong, that the Harris campaign didn't really want to talk to him at all. They didn't really give him the time of day, but the Trump campaign was open to hearing what he had to say. And even though he came in as a Democrat, he ended up supporting Donald Trump, who is obviously on the Republican side of things, and this whole concept of make America healthy again. And these are all things that Donald Trump has picked up, and he is going to put Robert Kennedy in charge of, I believe is the HHS. Is that what he said he's going to put Kennedy in charge of? Somebody let me know if I got that right. And I believe that is the Health and Human Services Department. Is that what the HHS stands for? Somebody let me know if I got that right. I believe it's HHS, he said. Now, these are all nominations because they have to be approved by the system of checks and balances we have in America. So this is what's going to happen. What we're going to talk about here today is not necessarily what Kennedy's plan specifically is going to be, because we don't know exactly what his plan is going to be yet. It's a little bit too early because the administration doesn't start for another 2 months. But what we are going to talk about is the health system in America, the medical system in America that contributes to the situation in the health system, and why I will tell you up front why I am open to an overhaul of that system as a general concept. So introducing myself, for those who don't know me, my name is Dre Baldwin. Many know me as Dre all day. I'm a former 9-year pro athlete, author of 35 books, done 4 TEDx talks. I created this brand called Work on Your Game. Our job here is to help you perform at your highest level, do so consistently, and produce results. When we ask people who work with me, what is it they like best about working with me, they say, Dre, you get straight to the point. You're no fluff, no BS. You don't talk around things, and you get straight to what needs to be talked about. So any of you who is new here, you're just watching me for the first time, or maybe you only heard me a few times, that's my style. You'll understand it as we go through this material. Doesn't really matter what the topic is. We work with professionals, entrepreneurs, sales teams, people who are jumping into business, people who have businesses that have been around for 10 years plus. That's what we do. That's what we help people with. So all that out the way, let's get into what we need to talk about here. And by the way, I'll respond to questions and comments at the end as I go through all of my points. Everybody got that? Good. Point number 1. So when it comes to the medical system, and specifically the medical system in America, because a lot of times when we talk about health, what we often connect that to mentally, or at least I do, we connect that to the medical system, like the hospitals, the doctors, whatever drugs you may be taking, whatever pharmaceuticals you may be on, whatever operations you may be doing. And what has happened in America, and this is something that I generally disagree with the fact that this has happened, but not disagree with with that it's happened, but I disagree with how it's happened and why we've allowed this to happen, is that often when we think about health in the United States of America, we tend to connect that with a hospital, a doctor, a drug, some form of intervention that is not something that naturally occurs in or with the human body. I do not like this concept. I don't like the fact that the United States has bought into this. And when I say United States, I don't mean the government. I mean us individual people. We have made anything that has to do with health or anything that has to do with our bodies into something that it must mean we need to go consult a physician or a doctor or some type of medical expert. Let's just call them experts because they have expertise in that space anytime something happens with our body, for example. And actually, before I get to that, for those of you who don't know me, if you're new here, I have trashed the medical system many times over in the past. Again, go to my YouTube and you can find many pieces of material of me trashing the medical system. And if you don't go look in my past, just keep watching me from now into the future. I will trash the medical system even more as we continue just in life, period, especially if it continues as it is, which I think in many ways, I think RFK and Trump are going to try, but I don't know how much they're going to be able to get done in 4 years. And also going against a very, very strongly entrenched system that has a lot of money involved and a lot of people's careers involved. We'll see what they're able to achieve, but it may not be they may not be able to achieve as much as they want. And no administration is able to, simply because there's a lot of people who are going to fight back to protect their own careers to keep things as is. So, for example, as I said, we have this mindset that anything that involves the body or health, we have to get doctors and hospitals involved. Giving birth, for example, birth is not a medical situation. I'm using that as an example because many people tend to have this in their heads that giving birth or just being pregnant, period, means you need to consult a doctor and you need to go to a hospital and you need to do whatever the doctor or the hospital says in order to give birth. Giving birth is not a medical situation, ladies and gentlemen. It is not. I don't know how, or actually, I do know how the medical industry, especially in the United States, indoctrinated people into believing that giving birth was a medical situation. Therefore, you had to listen to and talk to and follow a doctor in order to go through with that process. And what happens is so Miley, yeah, you got it. So anyone here who has given birth, or someone who's given birth, you notice that one of the first things they talk about is who their doctor is, what hospital they're going to give birth at. And then when you go to the hospital to give birth, they first of all, they use scare tactics on you. They don't call them scare tactics, but that's what they are. That, hey, if you don't do this, this, and this, then it may hurt you as the mother. It may hurt the baby. The baby may not survive. You may not survive. Therefore, you should probably take this shot into your body. You should probably take this intervention. You should probably have us do this major surgery on you, also known as a C-section. A C-section is a surgery and it's a major surgery because if you don't do the C-section, the baby might not come out, or the baby might get delayed, or something might happen in the process of you giving birth. And there are probably many mothers listening to me right now who's given birth via C-section, not necessarily because you needed it, but because the hospital convinced you that you needed it. And therefore, if you didn't do it, then you might feel like you are an irresponsible person because something might happen to you or your baby. So you allowed them to do it. And when they have you in that compromised position, you're in the middle of giving birth. If you're in the middle of labor, you're not in a position to logically go back and forth with another person who is hitting you with all this quote unquote facts about why you need to go and do that thing. I'm using this as an example that the medical system in the United States has turned every single thing that happens with our body into some type of medical situation that requires some sort of intervention from a doctor or a hospital or an operation or a pharmaceutical. And that's nonsense. And RFK, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., that's what I'm talking about. I believe he understands this at a deep level. And I believe he's going to try to undo some of this indoctrination that many Americans have through going through the governmental systems that are deeply entrenched. So any of you who has been through this, and I see many of you in the comments here co-signing that, y'all know this. And this is especially pernicious if you're a single mother. Any of you who has given birth as a single mother, you're in the hospital. And again, you don't have anyone advocating for you. Like when my son was born, obviously I'm not a woman. My son was born, he's 2 years old. I was there. Well, first of all, we had a home birth. So we planned a home birth. My wife and I planned a home birth. She wanted one from the beginning. She told me. I wasn't really aware of I didn't know much about it. Again, I'm not a woman, so I wasn't really thinking about it. But she went and did all the research. We had a midwife, was basically what do they call it? Like the medical expert, I guess, the midwife. Then we had a doula, who was like the emotional support person. And then the midwife brought another person. So it was these three women, my wife giving birth, and then me there. I didn't do anything. I just kind of stayed out the way, took pictures and stuff like that. But we had all of that in place. And I was imagining, now, what if a single mom who has no man around, the father's not there, she goes to the hospital to give birth? Well, the hospital is going to run their entire system on that woman because the woman can't argue again. You can't argue with somebody when you're in labor. When you're in labor, from what I understand, the women who are listening to this, there's an intense amount of pain. And when you're in physical pain, you can't think logically and rationally, and you damn sure can't go back and forth with the person who is not in that pain. They will just do whatever they want to do. And this is why so many women get interventions. You get shots into your body. What are the shots they have you take just to induce the birth? And I'll tell you why they do that. Shots to induce the birth, C-sections that you don't actually need. Any of you look at the data, you see that the number of C-sections that happen in America has gone up significantly over the last several decades. Why are more women, quote unquote, needing C-sections now than they needed 50 years ago? Have women's bodies changed that much? No, they haven't changed. What happens is the medical industry has gotten better at selling us on the fact that we, quote unquote, need these interventions. And again, I'm just using this as an example of how the medical industry has sold us on needing things that we don't actually need. And the way they do it is through scare tactics. They scare you that if you don't do this, something might happen to you or your baby or to grandma. With what they did with the virus a few years ago. Hey, if you don't get this, then you're gonna kill grandma. Now you're going to hurt yourself. You're going to kill grandma. You're only 26. You're in perfect health. Nothing's going to happen to you, but you might kill your grandmother. So you might as well get this thing. And this is what the medical industry does. Because when you get people afraid and emotional, They are basically willing to listen to and do anything that you tell them to do. The medical industry has codified this and made a whole system out of it. Not only do they do it when you get there in the profession, but they teach people when you're in medical school. They teach the doctors and the nurses this. They teach you this in school. So then when you get out of school, you go get a job, you are indoctrinated to believe that you're doing the right thing, because that's what your professors taught you when you were in school. So the people who are working in these systems, and I have people who work in home health, doctors, nurses, as members of my coaching programs, as coaching clients of mine. This is not personal against you. If you happen to be a nurse or a doctor who is listening to this, this is the system that you happen to work in. They teach you that you're doing the right thing by doing this. So when my son was born, for example, we went to the hospital because my son he pooped inside of before he was born. So they call that, what's the word? Just skip my mind. There's a word for it. I just forgot what it was. But anyway, meconium. So he pooped inside of before he was born, and he's not supposed to do that. Not supposed to poop till they come out. So we took him to the hospital just to make sure he didn't ingest any of that into his lungs. And the doctor who came around, she wanted to do all these interventions to my son. And I said, you're not doing any of that shit. And I ended up kind of sort of arguing with the doctor. It wasn't really an argument because we're not equals. I let her know, like, yeah, you're a doctor, but I'm a parent. So bottom line is going to be what I say, not what you say. And there was a whole thing in there. They called security on me in the hospital, all of this stuff. I told this story a few days ago. And anyway, I was thinking to myself when I went through all of that, like, what if I wasn't here? What if I wasn't there? And the mom who just gave birth, she's down in a different part of the hospital, and the baby's up here, unable to speak for itself. No one advocating for the baby. Well, they would just do whatever they want to the baby. They're going to do all these interventions, all these different shots, all these different V words that they're going to put in the baby. And then this is what the doctor said to me. One of the nurses told me this. They said, and actually I had the midwife on the phone the whole time. So the midwife wasn't with us, but she was basically telling me what I needed to understand, because the doctor would say certain things and I'm like, well, what does that mean? And she was explaining it in doctor speak. I wanted to explain it in normal speak. The midwife was translating everything. And the midwife said to me, Dre, if they do these things on the list, because the doctor gave me like 11 things they want to do. I said, write down every single thing you want to do. And I'm going to tell you what you can do, what you can't do. And she was very resistant to this, the doctor, that is, because the doctors, they're used to just telling you what they're going to do and you listening. I'm not that type of person. I think y'all can tell. And when I listened to things off to the midwife on the phone, the midwife said, well, Dre, if you let them do number 4, 5, and 6, the rule is the law states that your baby must stay in the hospital for 10 days so they can monitor your baby for side effects of these things. So I said, they're definitely not doing 4, 5, and 6. And again, I'm thinking to myself, I'm not even telling you the story about me. I'm telling you the story about what if this is a single mom giving birth. You don't have anyone in the NICU, that's the neonatal intensive care unit, talking for you because you're down in a different department of the hospital. There's a reason why they separate the mom from the baby as soon as you're born. Think about that. Why would they do that? There's a reason they do that, so they can do what the hell they want to do to your kid. That's the reason they do it, and that you're not around to see it or talk about it. So they separate the mom from the kid. There's no one advocating for the kid if you're a single mom, and now they go do their battery of things to your child, and now they have to keep your kid in the hospital for 10 days. And by the way, they're charging you for that. They're charging either you or your insurance for that. This is a system, folks. This is a system, and it's a beautiful system for them. It's a terrible system for us. Again, I'm using all of that just as an example here. I could go 2 hours just telling you about that alone. I'm not going to do that. I'm telling you all that. This is one of the reasons. I'm giving you an anecdotal example from my personal experience, but I know many of you have had similar experiences to that. My guy said, what hospital? This is Jackson Hospital in Miami, Florida. And the whole point being, the point of this is not about the hospital. It's not about me specifically. The point is, the medical industry has created an entire system around making you believe that you need them and you need their interventions anytime something happens with your body or your health. That's the point that I'm making here. So anytime we think about the concept of health, it's been indoctrinated into us. And then they teach that to the doctors and the nurses, and the doctors and nurses come out of medical school gung-ho that whatever they're telling you is the absolute best thing. This doctor even said to me, this bitch had the gall to say to me that, listen, sir, if I'm not able to do these things, this is what she said to me first. She said, I'm concerned with your baby's ability to survive if you don't allow me to do these 11 things that we want to do. She literally wrote down 11 things they want to do. She said, if you don't let me do these, and I'm concerned that your baby may not survive. This is the night that he was born. And I told, now let me ask you a question. Let me stop right there. How many of you, if you had a doctor say that to you, you would just say, okay, doctor, do whatever you got to do? How many of you would do that? Now, I don't know what some of you are going to say now, because the way that I framed this to make it easy for you to answer the question. But if I hadn't given you all that frame, if that literally happened to you, what would you say? I bet, and I'm no disrespect to any of you, I bet most of you would say, all right, doc, do whatever you got to do. Do what you got to do. I don't want my kid to die. Do whatever you got to do. I said to her, bitch, you're not doing any of that shit. I'm going to tell you the two things you can do that my midwife told me it's okay to go through with. You're not doing the rest of them. And the reason why I was able to say that, let me be clear, it's not because I'm a medical expert. I did not go to medical school. The reason why I was able to say that is because, number one, I knew why we were in the hospital in the first place. It was to check on one thing. It was not for all those other things. And number two, I had the midwife on the phone who was telling me, Dre, you don't need all these other things. You only need these two things. So let me be clear. This is not because I was just pulling information out of the universe to tell her why she couldn't do what she did. I didn't overrule her because I know more than she knows. And I didn't really give a damn what she knew, because I didn't come there for her knowledge. I came there for them to do one thing, and I only want them to do the one thing and not try to screw me with other things. It's the same thing like, any of you ever took your car to the shop and you went there to get one thing fixed, but then all of a sudden the shop's like, oh, well, hey, you need new brakes. Oh, something's wrong with your tire. Oh, we got to replace this thing over here. Oh, we got to replace that thing over there. And before you know it, you came there to fix something that costs $100, but now they want to charge you $1,000. All right. And again, if you don't know what's happening and you don't know what's going on before you show up to the situation, they will do this to you. And some of them do it in a malicious way to get money out of you, like an auto mechanic. They will screw you if you don't know what the hell you're doing. They will. I've had it happen to me. I've seen other people have it happen to them. In the medical industry, they're not necessarily doing it maliciously. Again, your doctors and nurses are taught this in school, that this is the right thing to do. So when they get into their jobs, they believe they're doing the right thing. And that's why they're so righteous about it. That's why they're so indignant when you push back against them, because they believe they've been taught to do the right thing. And they believe you're the fool for pushing back against it, because they don't understand that they were indoctrinated in school. And this is the reason why I trash the educational system. Right? There's the reason why all these systems work the same way. There's the reason why school, like K through 12 school and a hospital, are designed the exact same way. I talked about this again a few days ago. So let me move on now that I've established the trash that's the medical system and why it's designed in the way that it is, because it teaches the people who are working there that they must be doing the right thing. And if you push back, they look at you like you're the fool and that you're risking your life or grandma's life or your child's life if you don't follow what they say. So us in the United States, let's move on to what I really want to talk about here, is that we are allegedly, the United States of America is allegedly, if you let Americans tell it, and Americans, we tend to be very smug and arrogant about our superiority to other countries, especially those of you who've never been anywhere. And you're not from outside the United States and you lived in America your whole life. We tend to think the world revolves around us. We are allegedly the smartest and richest nation in the world. Isn't that what we're told? We got the smartest people. We got the most innovation. We got the best technology. We got the most money. We got the most opportunity. And some of those are true. Some of them used to be true and are not true anymore. But at the same time, did y'all know that 70% of the American population is either overweight or obese clinically? I mean, since we're talking about the medical system. 70% of the population of the United States of America is clinically overweight or obese, based on the way that they measure being overweight or obese, based on your BMI, your height, your weight, age, et cetera, et cetera. 70% overweight or obese in the United States of America. So how is that possible? How is that possible? Well, I'm going to tell you a couple ways that that's possible. And Queen A said, I used to be a teacher, can't be part of the indoctrination anymore. Yeah, you and many others. So here's the thing that you got to understand. United States, and I'm jumping around my points because there's a point that I want to go right with this. We are a culture of high production. America does do a lot of producing. We have a lot of production. This is the reason why this is one of the best places to be an entrepreneur. There's a reason why the United States is a country where you can be born at the bottom of the totem pole, the bottom of the pyramid, socioeconomically. You can be born into a lower class family that is functionally poor, but you could die rich. You can die in the upper class, even though you were born in the lower class. Any of you who's from another country outside the United States, you know, there are countries in the world where that can't happen. If you're born in the lower class, you might get to like the upper echelons of the lower class, but you're not even getting into the middle class, let alone the upper class, if you're born in the lower class. Any of you born in the country or from a country where that's the way it works, Put the name of that country in the comments. Some of you who have traveled and you've been places, or you know people who've been places, they will tell you. There's a reason why so many people want to come to the United States. It is the land of opportunity. It still is the land of opportunity. But in many countries in the world, Crespo said, India, I think I can say that country, you can't do that. There are some countries, some of you might say that I can't say their names on TikTok, but some of them I can. So the point being, there is opportunity here in the United States because we are high producers, and because of the capitalistic system that we have, it's open to production. All right. If you can produce something of value, you can raise your status in the United States within one lifetime. In other countries, you got to wait 5, 6, 7 lifetimes to go from lower class to possibly upper middle class. You got to plan it all out strategically because you can't do it in 60 years. And your child can't do it in 60 years, but maybe your children's children can do it if they go far enough up. But in America, you can do it in one lifetime. You can go from nothing to something in one lifetime. And that's because we have a high level of production and it's open for production in America. The other thing that we do in America, here's the trade-off of production, is consumption. The trade-off of production is consumption. And I'm going to answer all questions at the end, by the way. So anybody posting a comment, especially those of you on TikTok, if you want me to see you and respond to your comment, wait till I get to the comments part. But I'm not going to see it if you're posting it right now. But if you want other people to see it, go ahead and post it. So we are a culture of high consumption. We consume a lot. What season are we in right now? For those of you watching this on replay, I'm recording this a week before Thanksgiving. So this is holiday season in America. Holiday season starts early, right? We start holiday season like right after Halloween, right? Right after Halloween, people putting up Christmas trees. I can see sometimes when I'm walking around here, there's a lot of high rises in Miami. You walk around at night, people had the lights on in their houses. You can see the Christmas tree. I'm like, yo, Halloween was like yesterday. How you got a Christmas tree already? I don't have a Christmas tree yet. I'm gonna get one, but I didn't get it yet. I usually get it around Thanksgiving or a little bit after. But the whole point is we make this holiday season last a long time, 2 months of the holiday season. Now, the holiday season here in America is based on what? It's based on Christmas. What is Christmas actually? Anybody know what Christmas actually is? I think in America, we tend to forget what Christmas is actually supposed to be. What is the original point of Christmas? Does anybody know? I think some of you know. Put in the comments. What's the original point of Christmas? It ain't what we use it for now. What's the original point of Christmas? Yes, y'all got it in the comments. Melissa, you got it. Penny, you got it. 1 cent, you got it. All right, so Retribution got it. Patriot Business Strat. Right, so the Crespo, you got it. Yes, the point of Christmas is to celebrate the birth of Jesus Christ. Now, is that what Christmas is about? When you look at the TV commercials and the sales at Walmart and Amazon days and people like myself and others who put stuff on sale to induce people to buy stuff from us, does any of us even mention that when we're selling our stuff? America is a culture of consumption. I'm bringing all that up to say this. We took a holiday that's supposed to be a religious holiday about the birth of Jesus Christ, where many of us ain't even Christian, but we turn Christmas into an opportunity for ourselves to sell things and to buy things. I'm saying all that to say, not that I'm not condemning it, because I buy stuff during Christmas season. I just told you I'm gonna get a Christmas tree. Christmas trees ain't free. The Christmas tree I'm gonna get is probably gonna be a 7-foot tree. It's gonna cost me like $100, and I'm going to buy it, and I'm happy to buy it. I'm happy to go buy it. And I'll probably buy stuff that's on sale because it's Christmas season. Because it's Christmas season, I'm gonna just buy it just because. And I'm gonna sell stuff because it's Christmas season, and I'm happy to sell it. So I'm not knocking any of this. I'm just pointing it out that we are a culture of consumers, and we're consuming for reasons that we just completely made up. We just made that up. Christmas is supposed to be Christians celebrating the birth of Jesus Christ. If you're not a Christian, what you doing celebrating Christmas? You're in a Christian. What are you doing? Why are you involved? Why are you selling things? Why are you buying things just because it's holiday season? You ain't even a Christian. And I'm talking to myself too. I'm saying this as a tongue-in-cheek thing to help you all understand. Easter is another one. Yes, that we are a culture of producers, high producers. We do a lot of production in America. We're also a culture of high consumers. We just consume stuff. I'm saying all that to frame this point that I'm making. How are we supposed to be the richest and smartest and most advanced country in the world? Yeah, we got all these obese and overweight people. Is because we consume. We consume just as much as we produce. We do a whole lot of consumption here in the United States of America. And as a matter of fact, as evidenced by the government being $35 trillion in debt, that we have started to consume more than we produce. This is a problem. That's how we got in debt. And that's not really how we got in debt, but I'm using it as a frame. How we really got in debt is we got off the gold standard and just got reckless with our spending. But different conversation for a different day. We consume a lot of things that are not good for us because they are continually sold to us. Supply and demand. For example, junk food. Everybody knows junk food is not good for you, but we all consume junk food. I consume junk food. Even though I know it's not good for me, I'll eat it anyway. Why? Because I like it. This is just human nature. And the more it's offered to me, the more likely I'm going to take it. And I'm going to eat it, and I'm going to enjoy eating it, even though I know it's bad for me. This is human nature. In other countries, they have checks and balances for this stuff. In America, we have much fewer of those checks and balances. I'm going to get to that in a moment. And so humans are humans in every country in the world. So I'm going to use, yesterday I mentioned Brazil, and I'm not specifically talking about Brazil. I'm using Brazil because that's a country that I know I can say and not get penalized on TikTok. So I'm going to just say Brazil. Every time I say Brazil, I'm just referring to any other country in the world. Certain countries' names I know for a fact I cannot say on TikTok. So are any of you wondering why I'm saying Brazil? That's why I'm saying it. So in Brazil, for example, there are humans who have the same human nature tendencies that we have here in America. The difference is in a country like Brazil or other countries, their government puts checks and balances in place that prevents companies from selling stuff to the people that are going to hurt the people over the long run. I mean, not everything, but they have more checks and balances in place than we have here in America. The reason we have fewer checks and balances when it comes to our health and here in America is because of capitalism. What does that mean? What that means is there are companies here in America that have so much money that they will go to the government and pay off the government in some way, shape, or form. People in the government, or they'll lobby for the government, or they'll donate money to lawmakers and executives, presidents, etc. They will do these things to do what? To basically persuade the lawmakers to create laws and rules that allow the companies to sell things that are not good for people, but allow them to sell them anyway. Why? Because you paid us off to do it. That's how the government. So I'm not saying that's the whole government here in America, but is there corruption in our government? Absolutely. So when Donald Trump said, I'm going to drain the swamp, this is part of what he was talking about, that we got to get these lobbyists out here in Washington, D.C., who basically pay money to get lawmakers to allow them to do things that are not healthy for people, but will make them money. And it makes the person who got paid off money. Let me explain to you just as a general concept how lobbying works. So in Washington, D.C., y'all know that's where the government is based, right? So in Washington, D.C., let's say I'm a senator or a congressperson, because the senators and the congress people, representatives, House of Representatives and the senators, those two groups make up what we call Congress. Congress is where the laws get made. They make laws, they pass it over to the president. The president says yes, it becomes a law. The president says no, that's called a veto. It goes back and maybe they try again. So all of these people are based in Washington, D.C. So let's say I work for a company like, let's name a company. Let's take a company that makes like candy. All right, so I make candy. Now, all of us know that candy is not good for us, right? Is anybody unclear on that? Anybody thought before today that candy was good for you? Or cigarettes is another great example. And cigarettes is kind of losing its popularity, but let's use candy because that's something that's still popular. So let's say I work for a candy company and we put all types of chemicals in our candy. There's nothing real in it. There's no real food in my candy that my company makes, but we want to be able to sell this to you because you'll buy it and it makes us a whole bunch of money. So we want to protect our jobs and we want to get rich selling our stuff in this capitalistic world. We want the government to create rules and laws that allow us to sell this stuff. Now, the problem is we tried to sell this candy in Brazil. Again, I'm using Brazil as a proxy for any other country in the world. And Brazil said, no, you can't sell this candy to our people because your candy has these 7 chemicals in it that we know are not healthy. They are scientifically created in some chemistry lab. You can't sell your product with this stuff in it to our people because it's very addictive. On top of the fact that it's going to hurt people's health, you can't do that here. You can't sell that here. Get out of here. You either got to change your product or you can't sell it here. Now, if we change the product, here's the problem. It will be less addictive, which means we're going to sell less of it. So we don't want to change the product. We just want to go somewhere where we can sell it exactly as it is. So we look to America. Now, in America, being it's a capitalistic society, maybe since it didn't work in Brazil, because Brazil doesn't just chase the almighty dollar above everything. Let's go to America where they chase the dollar over everything. So if we can put money in front of somebody's face, we can pretty much do whatever we want. So here's what we do. We go to America. We hire a lobbyist, which is, let's say they hire me. I'm the lobbyist. My job is I work for that company. They're based in Miami, but I go set up shop in Washington, D.C. Now, why do I set up shop in Washington, D.C.? Because all the lawmakers are in Washington, D.C. I can reach all of them at the same time if I just hang out in D.C. And I'm going to get to why that's a problem in a second. I'm going to hang out in Washington, D.C. I'm going to go meet with all the senators, all the representatives, state representatives, and the state senators who are all in D.C. all the time. And I'm going to persuade and influence them That could be through sweet talking them, taking them to dinner, maybe even donating to their campaigns or their favorite charities, etc., giving them money in some way, shape, or form to get them to pass a law that allows these 7 bad chemicals to be acceptable under the rules of what we can sell and what we can't sell. And when they pass that law that allows us to sell that candy, that very addictive candy with this scientifically chemistry lab created junk that's going to make it addictive to people and is going to hurt their health and shorten their lifespans, now we can sell it as much as we want in America because we have a law that says we can. See, that only works in America because in America, the dollar speaks. Whereas in other countries, they say, well, even though you're offering us money, we're not going to allow it. In America, they allow it. Why? Because we're a capitalistic society. Now, I'm making this a very broad, high-level example, but this is generally how it works. Now, why am I able to do this so effectively as a lobbyist? So when you hear the word lobbying, this is what it is. This is what lobbying means. So why am I able to do this so effectively in Washington, D.C. is because all these state senators who represent Nebraska, Texas, Montana, Wyoming, Florida, Louisiana, and the representatives, again, representing Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York, California, Arizona, how am I able to lobby all of them so easily? Because they all hang out in one spot. So when you hear people, you may hear people who talk about the government in America talk about this. They say, we need to make the people who represent our states, those are your senators and your representatives, they need to live full time in the state that they are allegedly representing instead of living in Washington, D.C., hanging out with each other. So whatever state you live in, think about this. The state that you live in America right now, what state y'all live in? Put the state that you live in here. So you live in Texas, you live in New York, you live in Florida, you live in Oklahoma, you live in North Dakota. Your state senator and your representatives don't even live in the state that you live in. They're supposed to be representing you. And they don't even know what's going on in your state because they're not there. They're in Washington, D.C. hanging out. And they're not hanging out, they're working. But they're doing their work in Washington, D.C. Why would they do their work in Washington, D.C. when instead they are representing you, but they're living in Washington, D.C.? How does that make sense? And this is all part of the political system. This is how it has evolved. It didn't start this way. Founding fathers didn't make it this way, but it has evolved into this. It started out as, again, I'm speaking general direction, that it started out that people who worked in politics were doing it as a side thing, as a public service to help Americans out. And they came from wherever they were, and they would all gather a couple times a year to talk about things, make laws, decide on things. Then they would go back to their regular lives where they lived. And it eventually evolved into, well, why don't we just live here? So we can always be here all the time. And this created an opportunity for the lobbyists to go around and grease the palms and the charities, et cetera, of the people they wanted to influence. And because this is a capitalistic society, money talks. And I'm not saying money doesn't matter. Money does matter. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a businessman. I'm a capitalist myself. But this is how the government can become corrupted. So when Donald Trump says drain the swamp, this is part of what he's referring to. It's not all of it. This is part of it. And this is how our medical system got messed up. This is how our education system somewhat got messed up. Education is a little bit different. The medical system got messed up. The legal system is messed up because of this. And this is all based on the dollar. The legal system in America, in case you didn't know, I think most of you understand this, is based on money. Y'all understand that, right? You know, the legal system is not about if you're innocent or guilty. It's about if you can afford it. If you can afford to prove that you're innocent, you're innocent. If you can't afford it, you might be going to jail. That's pretty much how the American legal system works. If you didn't know that, now you know. So if you don't have a whole lot of money, just don't do anything that would get you in the legal system. Don't do anything that will land you in court if you don't have money, because you're probably going to get something on your record, or you may spend some time behind bars, even if you may technically not even be guilty. So there's a story of a guy named, what was this kid's name? It was a Netflix documentary. What was his name? The guy in New York. Now, y'all remember that kid? He got arrested on a charge for, specifically, it was about a robbery that he said he didn't do. And then they brought him to jail, Rikers Island. He refused to cop a plea because pleading guilty would have got him out of jail, but he would have had that on his record. He didn't want it on his record. He refused. So they said, you got to stay in jail till you get a trial, because he couldn't afford bail. The bail was like $1,000. His family could not afford bail. He had like 4 or 5 brothers and sisters, and his mom and his dad, all of them put together, couldn't come up with $1,000. So they kept him in Rikers Island. He was in Rikers Island for 3 years. And he was never charged. He never actually went to trial. He was waiting 3 years to go to trial. He went to trial, actually, the case didn't even happen. The case got thrown out because the witness that said that guy robbed me wouldn't show up to court. So they couldn't try the case. They threw the case out after he sat in Rikers Island for 3 years Only reason he sat in Rikers Island because he couldn't afford bail. If he could afford a bail, he could have just been living his life and he just had to show up to court that one day. That's how it works for most people. But because he couldn't afford bail, he had to stay in jail for 3 years, even though he hadn't been convicted of anything. They threw the case out. He gets let out after 3 years sitting in jail. He was only 16 years old. He was 19 when he got out. Somebody remember this kid's name? Yes, Khalif Browder. Thank you, Mr. Yizzo. You got it. Yes, Browder. Khalif Browder. There's a whole documentary on Netflix about this. It's like an 8-part series. Please watch this series so y'all understand how the legal system really works in America. And this guy finally gets out. He's living in New York. I forget what part of New York. After 3 years sitting in Rikers Island for a crime he was never convicted of, you know what he ended up doing? He took his own life because he had gone crazy through being in Rikers Island, and he kept getting in like solitary confinement and all this stuff because Rikers Island is a kind of wild place, at least from what I've heard. And I'll take the word of what I've heard. He was in the Bronx. Yeah, so go watch that documentary so y'all really understand how the legal system works. So y'all think the legal system is about innocence or guilt. No, it is not. It's about, can you afford it? All right. The reason Donald Trump ain't in jail right now because he can afford lawyers. And not saying that he was guilty or innocent of the things he was charged with. I'm not even making an argument to that. I'm making an argument that the reason he was able to fight those cases is because he can afford lawyers who can fight the cases. If he couldn't afford lawyers to fight the cases, they would have buried him and he wouldn't have he wouldn't have been able to run, let alone what he have won. So in America, the dollar matters. So any of you out there who think money isn't everything, you're right, but it's connected to pretty much everything you want. And again, not even the point that I'm making here today, but I'm bringing it up to help you understand because it helps frame the point that we are talking about here today, that the medical system in America is driven just as much by money as is driven more by money than it is about you actually being healthy. So any of you who's an advocate of the medical system here in America, I'm going to force a red pill down your throat here today. Pause. So especially those of you who are doctors or nurses, and some of you probably already in the comments not liking what I'm saying. So the Food and Drug Administration, also known as the FDA. You heard of these guys? The FDA, Food and Drug Administration. You want to know something about the FDA? All right, here's the thing you should understand about the FDA. Number one thing, 70% of their budget, that's the money that they use to pay everybody and do what they do. You know where the money comes from? Anybody know the answer to this? This should be an eye opener for some of you. Any of you know where 70% of the money that the FDA uses every year to pay their staff, to pay for their buildings, to pay their bills, you know where the money comes from? Any of you know where it comes from? The FDA, where does 70% of their budget come from? Does anybody know the answer? I'm looking to see if anybody knows the answer. Kathy just answered it. Kathy just told you. Kathy, online business coach. Yes, traditional all day said it. Marsha, not exactly, but kind of, sort of. You're kind of right. Yes, 70% of the FDA's budget comes from pharmaceutical companies. So let's think about that. Pharmaceutical companies are the companies that sell the drugs that you take. You know, Viagra, the jab, all the V words, all the drugs that you may take over the counter, all the things you may get prescribed to you by your doctor. Those are pharmaceutical companies, right? The companies that make the drugs that you may be taking. I don't take anything, but some of you may be taking some drugs or even things you could buy at Walmart or CVS off the shelf, or the things that you need a prescription for. Those companies, they fund the Food and Drug Administration. Now, why is this a problem? The reason this is a problem is because the Food and Drug Administration's, ostensibly what their role is to regulate what gets sold to us and what we are allowed to have sold to us, what we are allowed to consume, to make sure that it's not hurting the everyday citizen. That's the point of the Food and Drug Administration as a big picture idea. They're supposed to look at what's in the food that's being sold, what's in the drugs that are being given to us, and making sure that it's not going to hurt us. But 70% of their money is coming from the companies that actually make and sell the drugs. That's what we call, ladies and gentlemen, a conflict of interest. That's a conflict of interest. It's kind of like if I'm a farmer and I got a whole bunch of chickens and I want to protect the chickens, it'd be like me going to the foxes in the woods and asking the foxes, hey, what's the best way that I design this coop for the chickens? All right, that's a bad idea. It's a conflict of interest because the foxes want to eat the chickens. So if I help them design the safety structure for the chickens, I'm setting the chickens up to fail. And America is supposed to be setting up us. We're supposed to be the chickens. We're supposed to get protected by the foxes, but the foxes are the ones that are paying the people who are supposed to be protecting the chickens. You tell me how that makes sense. And the pharmaceutical companies, all right, they're the ones who they put the stuff in the food, as Kathy said there, they put the stuff in the food. So Y'all want to understand that if y'all really understood this, y'all should let me start high level here. Next time you go to Soul R said, wow, how is that allowed? I just told you, money. It's allowed because of money. The reason this happens is because of money, ladies and gentlemen. The FDA couldn't operate without that money. Without the money they get from the pharmaceutical companies, there would be no FDA. This is the reason why you hear people like Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy talking about they want to cut a whole bunch of jobs from the federal government, is because a lot of these organizations exist only because they are held up by the money given to them by people who shouldn't be able to control and influence what goes in our food and what goes in our drugs, amongst other aspects of the governmental system, like legal system, educational system, etc. So I'm saying all that to say this, that next time you go in a grocery store, all of you should understand this. If you didn't, please write this down. When you go in a grocery store, you should only buy stuff from the perimeter of the store, because around the perimeter of the store, you get the produce, you get the fruit, you get the natural stuff, and you get the meat. Everything inside of the store, the inner aisles of a grocery store, you get packaged goods. Anything that comes in a package, a bag, a box, anything that comes in a bag or a box is called processed food. If it's processed, and it's also a process, some of the stuff is not processed, but if it's processed, that means there are chemicals and drugs in that food, and oftentimes there's nothing real inside of it. And the more of that stuff you eat, you are affecting your health, usually in a negative way. There's no positive benefit from a potato chip. You know, potato chips don't usually have any potatoes in them, right? Y'all understand that, right? Okay, you've eaten an actual potato before, right? And you eat a potato chip. Now, they may taste a little bit similar because chemists can basically make anything taste like anything they want to taste like. Right, just like you eat some apple gummy worms, it tastes like an apple, but you know it's not an actual apple, right? You know there's no apple in that, right? Okay, so packaged goods are all in the inside of the grocery store. You want to notice something? Think about it. When you go in a grocery store, you go on Whole Foods, the outside perimeter is like what? Like maybe 10% of the store. The packaged goods is about 90% of the store. So what does that tell you? That tells you that grocery stores make 90% of their money from the packaged goods that is not even real food. They make 10% of their money from the stuff on the perimeter of the store. Even though the stuff on the perimeter, like the organic stuff, hopefully y'all, if you're not eating and buying organic when it comes to your meat and your produce, I suggest you start buying organic. I know it costs more money, but I heard this woman say this in a TED Talk like 10 years ago. You can spend more money on your food now, or you can spend more money on your hospital bills later. Which one you want to do? Or either way, you got to spend. Or your kids are going to have to spend money on your hospital bills because you can't afford it because you can't work anymore. And now you need home health, and now you're in a nursing home, or you need somebody to come watch you every day and help you go to the bathroom because you didn't take care of your health when you were 30. Now you need somebody to help you when you're 70. So either way, you're going to pay now or pay later. So any of you who eats fruit, you all should eat fruit. Buy organic fruit. If you eat meat, find the best quality meat, like the grass-fed organic stuff, there's a grocery store down here in South Florida called Publix. They sell regular meat and they sell the more organic grass-fed stuff. Any of you has ever eaten, for example, I'm going on many tangents here today, and we probably gonna have to do 2 parts of this. But when you eat meat, you ever heard this thing called the itis? Any of you ever heard of this thing? They call it the itis, I-T-I-S. After you eat some food, you get the itis. Y'all heard of that before? Any of you familiar with this concept called the itis? Someone said, can we trust organic? I'm gonna address that in a second. Glad you brought that up. So the itis is this thing where you eat some food, it's like a tongue-in-cheek thing, that you eat a really good meal, and then after you finish eating, you feel tired, or you feel like taking a nap or going to sleep. All right, let me ask you a question. Why would you feel tired after eating food? And I'm gonna tell you why. But ask yourself the question, why would you feel tired? If I go eat a hamburger, why would I feel like taking a nap? Why don't I want to take a nap after eating a hamburger? Does eating a hamburger make me sleep? What sense does that make? I'm gonna tell you why you feel the itis. Is because the food that you ate is meat. Usually comes from meat. That meat that used to be an animal. You understand meat is an animal that got killed, right? Okay, so that animal had a whole bunch of hormones and drugs fed to it or injected into it, that when you eat the meat, you're eating those hormones and you're eating the same drugs that was fed to that cow. And the reason you feel tired is because those drugs are inducing that sleepy feeling in you. It's not because of the meat. It's not because, the food was so good, I'm tired. That doesn't make any sense. But a lot of people have been saying that for years, right? That's not a thing. That's because you just ingested some drugs that you don't even know what they are. And it's not even on a package of the food that you ate. because they don't have to tell you. Why don't they have to tell you? Because the FDA got lobbied by the pharmaceutical companies and not have to put that on the label of the food. So you see how this is a whole system? Alonzo over on YouTube said, itis is actually inflammation. I believe you. I believe you, Alonzo. I'm not challenging that. So someone asked, oh, what about organic? Can we trust when something is called organic? Technically, no. Technically, you can't trust something that's labeled organic because here's what the FDA allows pharmaceutical companies to do, and other companies too. Just agricultural, or they call it big pharma. You heard of big pharma, which is a common term people know about now, especially after the virus a few years ago. But they also have big ag. AG stands for big agriculture. These are the companies that they're the ones who produce the animals that get slaughtered to become your McDonald's hamburger. Or let's not just single out McDonald's. All right, you go to most restaurants, even the nice ones. All right, so McDonald's, you get a meal for $10, right? Or maybe $15 nowadays. But let's say you go to a restaurant where you get a meal, you get a burger and fries, and it costs you $30. All right, that meat ain't organic. That meat is not organic. I went to a restaurant here in Miami last week. I was with my son. I got a burger for me and a burger for him. The bill was like $50. All right, that wasn't organic meat. Now, it cost more money. That was not organic meat. Because if it was organic, they tell you right there on the menu. It's not organic. That's regular meat. Now, it's higher quality than McDonald's, but it ain't that higher. It ain't that much higher. The point being that big agriculture, these are the companies that mass produce animals. Now, you may be wondering, how can you mass produce an animal? I'll talk about that in a moment. They mass produce animals, and these documentaries have been out for decades. So if y'all haven't, or at least a decade. So some of you named some of the documentaries about, thank you for that lightning bolt, Irma. So the documentaries that y'all have watched when it comes to big agriculture, there's some on big pharma too, but big agriculture, these documentaries have been out for years. Those of you who have watched them, please put them in the comments and I'll shout them out for those of you who have, because some of you haven't watched them. Some of y'all don't even know about this stuff. So please name those documentaries y'all been watching about big agriculture. Thank you, Traditional, for the gift. Traditional all day. Appreciate you, sir. So what these companies do is they go lobby the FDA the same way. And they say, hey, FDA, you say you got this label called fat-free. All right, let's just use that as an example. Fat-free. So for something to be fat-free, that means it has, how much fat is it supposed to mean? If somebody tells you that this food is fat-free, how much fat does that mean? Out of 0 to 100, how much is that? If someone says fat-free, how much is that? How much fat does that mean? Somebody give me an answer. If I tell you that this food is fat-free, how much fat does that have? Like this water is fat-free. How much fat is that? Yes, fat-free means 0, right? Isn't that what it's supposed to mean? If I tell you something fat-free, that means 0. There's no fat in this. But here's what these companies do. They go to the FDA and say, hey, FDA, how about we massage the rules? How about fat-free means 5% or less? And FDA says, well, how are we going to do that? We can't call it fat-free if it's 5%. And they say, well, what if we donate $1 million to your favorite charity? I say, okay, now we can say 5%. And then over the years, it becomes 7%. Then it becomes 9%. Then it becomes 15%. I'm not saying this is the exact numbers. What I'm saying is this is the way that it works. So now when you buy something that is allegedly fat-free, that does not mean it doesn't have fat. When you buy something that is, what's another one? Low calorie, or diet. How about that? Diet, you got Coke and you got Diet Coke. What is Diet Coke? What does that even mean? Diet Coke. If you're on a diet, why are you drinking Coke? Why would you be drinking Coca-Cola if you're on a diet? So this is all a scam that they run on you. Now, listen, you still got to buy it, but they're allowed to market this to you. That's the point. They're allowed to market this stuff to you. See, it's not the fact that you bought it. It is the fact that you bought it. Let me back up. Let me correct myself. It is the fact that you bought it because you should know better. If you're on a diet, you shouldn't be drinking diet soda. That doesn't make any sense. You can't be on a diet drinking soda. And at the same time, other countries, again, Brazil, I'm just using them as an example. Brazil would say to these companies, yo, we're not selling soda to people and calling it diet. That doesn't make any sense. Soda is not part of a healthy diet at all. So no, you're not going to scam people with this language game by calling it diet soda and then selling them soda. No, you're not allowed to do that in this country. And they say, okay, well, we can't sell our soda here. Where can we sell diet soda? Oh, United States. All we got to do is spend enough money. And understand, an obvious, the amount of money that they spend to get these laws passed in order to sell their stuff, they more than make up for that investment with the sales that they make to people like me and you. So if I spend $1 million lobbying to sell more candy bars, I'm going to make $10 million selling the candy bars. So that's a $1 million investment to make $10 million back. Would you do that? Of course you would. Of course you would. Again, and in capitalistic society, why not? Why wouldn't you do it? And understand something. If you're trying to sell a healthy candy bar and your competitor is selling a not healthy candy bar and they're willing to spend $1 million to make 10 million, they're going to beat you in competition. They're going to sell more candy bars than you. So what you would have to do if you want to do things, quote unquote, the right way and follow your conscience and not sell people garbage on the basis of capitalism, you have to accept that you're not going to make as much money as somebody who is willing to sell themselves out in order to make $1. And you could take that one out of the food and drug and health. You can take it out of there and take it to many different industries in America. Legal system, the entertainment system, the business world, corporate America. You could take what I just told you, that frame, you could take that to any subject in the United States. If you're willing to put your conscience aside and do something that you know is not maybe up to your values or morals, but you're willing to put that aside in order to get $1, all right, you can make more money than someone who is not willing to put those things aside. That is just a general rule. And in America, that works. There are other countries that works too, but let's just speak about America. That's how it works. So if you want to understand how certain entertainers, you watch an entertainer or a rapper, for example, you're like, this person has no talent, no skill, no nothing. How are they so popular? You think that just randomly happen? No, no. And then you take someone who you think actually has talent, but they seem to have some strong character, strong morals, and they're not as popular. All right, you want to know why? I just explained it to you. In America, if you are willing to sell your soul for $1, you can make more money. That's just how it works. If we're talking about food, we're talking about the legal system, we're talking about the education system, we're talking about corporate America, we're talking about big business, we're talking small business. If you're willing to sell your soul for $1, you can make the $1. Easy. If you're willing to do it. It's just a matter of what you want to do. Where do you draw the line? Do you have a line? And this is where we come down to principles. But again, I'm going too far off the topic. As y'all can see, I can talk about this stuff all day. So as I said, 70% of the FDA budget comes from pharmaceutical companies. That's where I was, right? 70% of the FDA's budget comes from pharmaceutical companies. Now, why does that matter? Here's something else you should understand. The former head of the FDA, there's a person who was the head of the Food and Drug Administration, okay? This person's job was to make sure that whatever got in our food, the stuff that we eat and the drugs that we ingest, or y'all ingest, I don't take any drugs, but that you all ingest, they're supposed to regulate that stuff. This person left their job at the FDA. And you know where they got a job at? And you know the answer to this? And it's a specific company. And I'll say, here's what I'll say about this company. This is a company that was heavily involved in the jab that many of you took a couple of years ago for that virus. They left the FDA and they went and got a job heading a company that made one of those jabs. Kathy got it. Kathy, you know a lot of stuff. that company that starts with the P, Pfizer. They left the FDA and now they're the head of Pfizer. And then tell me how that makes sense. It doesn't necessarily mean that this person is corrupt. Not necessarily. Just that information alone doesn't prove anything. But I think it's a little bit of a head scratcher. It's a little bit, what? You used to be head of the company that regulated the drug companies. Now you went and go work for the drug company. Tell me how that makes sense. And again, people don't know about this stuff because it's not like this is on the front page of the newspaper. Now, why is it not on the front page of the newspaper? Now that I'm on the subject, let me tell you this. Do you know that TV networks, that their biggest advertiser is who? Y'all should know the answer to this one. I'm setting you up for this one. Who's the biggest advertiser to TV networks? Pharmaceutical companies. Next time you're watching TV, actually, most of you don't only watch TV. Next time you're on YouTube and you're watching a video on YouTube and the ads start coming on, pay attention to the ads. Next time you watch a long video on YouTube, like an hour-long video, and you see like 4 or 5 ads over the course of that hour, notice the ads that come on and what actually is being advertised in the ads. About half of them are going to be like everyday folks. It'll be somebody like me advertising a course or a program or my consulting or whatever it is that I'm selling. It'll be an everyday person, not an everyday person, but a business owner, a small business owner, a private business selling something, right? The other half of those ads, if you really pay attention, are pharmaceutical drugs. So it'll be somebody selling some ad for, what's the ads you see the most of? Ads for like people aging and how to reverse aging. Ads for any type of erectile challenges that men have. There's a lot of ads for that. There's a ton of ads for that stuff. Ads for what's the other things they have advertising for? Ads for like people who have allergies. Here, you can take this, you can kill your allergies. I don't know what kind of ad. They have ads for women maybe reversing the effects of aging. But they're all pharmaceutical ads. If you actually look at the ads, many of us just tune out ads, right? Because there's so many of them. We've been conditioned to ignore them. But if you actually pay attention, about half the ads you see are for some type of drug. Pay attention, you'll notice it. And yeah, depression, that's another one. That's another good one. And yeah, the side effects. So Brittany, I'm glad you brought that up. Medical equipment is another good one. So the side effects, next time you see or hear, you should actually listen to them because you won't notice it because it's in the fine print. Next time you see, first of all, an ad for a pharmaceutical drug, look closely and you see the fine print. The fine print, and we say that as a colloquialism, but there is fine print. They have to put that there by law. And I bet you there are lobbyists trying to fight to make sure so they don't have to say that anymore or share it anymore. They're fighting to do that. I guarantee you. They haven't succeeded yet, but they're trying. The fine print is all the side effects of the drug. And the next time you hear an ad about any pharmaceutical drug, listen when they explain the side effects. They say it really quickly. And again, that's by law that they can say it quickly. But if you listen to what they say about the side effect, I can't remember what drug it was. I was watching a YouTube video or listening to a YouTube video. And an ad came on, and of course I couldn't skip the ad. I had to listen to it. And they mentioned the side effects. I can't remember what the ad was for. It was like for something in the head, like depression or mindset or something like that. Not mindset, but like depression or aging, something that had to do with your thought process or your vision or something like that. And it said side effects could be loss of vision. It could be, you could have a stroke, you could die. And I'm like, wait, that's the side effects? And they're selling this? In other countries, you cannot do this. Only in America can you get away with this. And when I was like, wait a minute, the side effects are what? It said you could lose your vision, you could have a stroke, you could have a heart attack, you could die, consult a physician before taking this pharmaceutical. I'm like, wait a minute, you're advertising that? And they allow this. The Food and Drug Administration allows this. Here's another thing you should know. America is the only country in the world where you are allowed to run advertising for over-the-counter drugs. You can't run ads. You cannot run ads for over-the-counter drugs in any other country in the world. I believe there's another country. I think I heard, if I'm remembering the country correctly, I believe it's the country with the initials NZ. NZ that you can, but is highly regulated. Like you can run ads, but there's a whole lot of restrictions on what you can say and what you can't say. But in America is the only country in the world where it's open season. You can run ads for damn near any drug that you want openly. Now, why does America allow this? I just explained this to you. Capitalism. Because a lot of companies make a lot of money. A few years ago, those of you who follow sports, y'all remember when the jab was out, the virus was out, there was a jab. There's a basketball player named Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving didn't take the jab, and he was open about, I'm not taking the jab. And his team, the Brooklyn Nets, didn't allow him to play basketball until it became overwhelming. They needed him. They allowed him to come back, even though he never took the jab. On ESPN TV network, there were guys on there like Stephen A. Smith, Michael Wilbon. Those two specifically did it a lot. They went hard at Kyrie Irving. They were just bashing him, just tearing him apart every single day for months because he wouldn't take the jab. They were going at him because he wouldn't take the jab. That's what they were saying specifically about him, about not taking the jab. And I was wondering to myself, why the hell does Stephen A. Smith and Michael Wilbon, who work for ESPN, they're sports guys, why do they care about Kyrie Irving not taking the jab? Now, I get it, the whole part about him not playing basketball. I get them touching on that, but they were going like extra hard. And then I found out why they were going so hard. Y'all want to know why they were going so hard? Here's why they went so hard. Because ESPN's biggest advertiser are pharmaceutical companies. So the pharmaceutical companies, they're the ones who were pushing the jab. So one NBA player not taking the jab, we got to tar and feather this guy in the town square and make him look like a complete idiot. We got to trash him as much as possible. So that anybody else who's thinking about not taking the jab, we're going to make an example out of Kyrie Irving so that all the rest of you mofos don't make the same mistake that he made. That's why they were trashing Kyrie Irving. Because they want to send a message to everybody. Oh, this is what we're going to do to you if you don't take the jab. We're going to take the most famous person who's not taking the jab in the sports world, and we're going to trash him. So the pharmaceutical company said it to ESPN. The ESPN executives sent it to the producers. The producers said to the on-air talent, y'all got to go at Kyrie Irving. Go at his neck. That's how it works. They say, you know what they say in corporate world, shit flows downhill. So he just went from the pharmaceutical companies who are the real bosses to ESPN, to the producers, to the people who work on TV. People who work on TV are like closer to the bottom of the totem pole than you think. They're the ones who had to carry out the mission and attack Kyrie Irving because he didn't take that jab. And I'm saying that to help you all understand. Their biggest advertisers are pharmaceutical companies. So these people are not independent. They do what they're told. So you got to be careful when you're taking messages from somebody who has anybody above them. You got to ask yourself, why are they doing this, and who's telling them to do it if they're not doing it on their own volition? Because if they go against the grain, they get fired. You can't go against the grain working at ESPN. ESPN is owned by Disney. Y'all know who Disney is, right? All right, and this is all part of the system. But this stuff doesn't get advertised on TV. So something may look like is one thing, but it's actually another. Anyway, let's continue. Mainstream media's biggest advertiser is pharmaceutical companies. So I mentioned ESPN, but all mainstream media. All right. Disney also owns ABC. Biggest advertisers on mainstream media is pharmaceutical companies. So if any of you want to understand, during the period of the virus and the jab, why were all the mainstream media networks telling you this is something that was proven to not be true? They told us directly to our faces, if you take the jab, you will not get the virus. Didn't they say that? Did they say that? Just yes or no. Did they say that? They said, if you take the jab, you will not get the virus. The CDC, Center for Disease Control. Did they say that? They said that. They said, if you take it, you will not get the virus. Now, after the virus sort of died down, there was a compilation video that was going around on the internet. I reposted it on X. Y'all should follow me on X if you want to hear me talk about current events on a more consistent basis. I only talk about them on these lives. My normal content is more evergreen stuff like business mindset, etc. But there was a video, it's probably about 4 minutes long, and it just showed a bunch of people saying the same thing, from our current president to the head of the Center for Disease Control to a whole bunch of people on TV, too many to name, that were all saying this. If you take the jab, you will not get the virus. And because that's generally what the V word is supposed to mean. Isn't that what we always believed? Up until the virus happened, before the year 2020, didn't we generally accept that if you take a V word for a certain virus or a certain infection, that means you can't get the thing? Isn't that generally what we accepted to believe to be true? Take the V word, you won't get the thing. You take the V word for this, you won't get that. Take the V word for this, you won't get this. Isn't that what we generally accepted? But then all of a sudden, they changed the definition of the V word. Now the V word means, if you take it, you might still get it. It just won't be as bad. They just changed it. They changed the definition of the word, or the understanding of the word. They did actually change the definition too, depending on where you look. Nowadays, we can't even agree on definitions. So you go on Google and look up the definition of the V word is different than if you go on DuckDuckGo and look up the definition of the V word. You get two different definitions of the same word. So now that's the next thing that's happening. They're changing the definitions of words to basically make themselves correct. And pharmaceutical companies have a lot of pull in the United States. That's the point that I'm making here. And this is the reason why we're talking about MAHA, Make America Healthy Again. This is the reason why RFK and Donald Trump and everyone else involved, I believe they have positive intentions. And at the same time, this is not going to be some walk in the park. Companies that have billions and billions of dollars to spend, and they control what the mainstream media is saying. You think they're going to just lay down and let Robert F. Kennedy and Donald Trump knock down the empire that they built? Y'all think they're going to just let that happen? Hell no, they're not going to let that happen. They're going to fight. This is going to be a battle. Anything RFKJ tries to do, here's what they're going to do. And y'all can see them doing this with RFK already. Those of you who pay attention to the news. People who don't like RFK, what do they say about him? The first things they say about him, they just start trashing him. Same thing they did with Trump. You see, this is what people do. This is what the mainstream media does. And this is how people had to take the red pill and understand what's actually happening. Is that when the mainstream media disagrees strongly with something that you're trying to do, they don't come at you with facts. So they don't come at you with the logical, let me back up. They don't come at you with the truth. They do come at you with facts. This is how they played the game. Because they had a whole lot of facts about Trump, right? He had this many felony convictions. He had this many wives. He has this many charges. He didn't just give up in 2020. All right, these are all facts. These are facts. But are they the truth? No. And what they do is they let everybody know, hey, these are facts about him. So anybody who decides to say something positive about this guy, just hit them with the facts and see what they have to say. And most people don't understand the difference between a fact and the truth. They don't have any pushback. So this is how they get a whole bunch of people to believe the bullshit. Because most people don't think strongly enough or deeply enough to understand that, yes, you have the facts, but you don't have the truth. And see, if you're not equipped, then when someone starts hitting you with the facts against a person that you like, then you just got to stay quiet and you can't fight back. So they did the same thing with RFKJ. Same thing they're doing with Robert F. Kennedy. Now, he's not as known as Donald Trump, obviously, but they did the same thing. They said, well, this guy has a brain worm, and he did this experiment in this other country where a bunch of people lost their lives, and he allegedly was unfaithful to his wife. Those are allegedly, and they do this too. He's suspected of. He's allegedly he did this. He's been charged with this. Someone said that he did that. And notice he did that with every Donald Trump cabinet pick so far. Every person Donald Trump has mentioned to be in his cabinet, there's something negative about them that they keep telling you that is either a fact taken out of context or it's hearsay. Oh, it's hearsay that Tulsi Gabbard works for that country with the R word that I can't say. It's hearsay that she is compromised, even though she has the highest possible security clearance you could have in America. But she's compromised. She's working against the country, allegedly. Again, and they can just, if you just put allegedly, or there are reports that, or people say, or some people believe, that gives you plausible deniability. You can pretty much say anything you want after you say that phrase and then just bash somebody and just tarnish their reputation. This is what the mainstream media does. And you see they do it with everyone, first of all, Trump, and then anyone associated with him. So TikTok just told me that I got flagged for some form of misinformation. So I'm not going to go any further down that rabbit hole because TikTok does not play with that stuff. So any of you, I could go further down that rabbit hole, but I'm not going to. TikTok just said you've been flagged for misinformation. I don't know if that's TikTok saying that or somebody reported me. I don't know, but I've been down this lane before. So let me get back to what I was talking about before we go too far. So any of you want to know why certain things I won't talk about too much on TikTok lives? That's the reason right there. All right. So let me go back to where I was. So as I was saying earlier, other countries put blockages on certain things that we put in our foods because they say this is not going to be good for our people. So we're not going to allow you to do that. But in the United States of America, you can get away with this stuff. Because of the capitalism, because of capitalistic society. So again, the advertising of pharmaceuticals does not allow in other countries the same way. The Food and Drug Administration already talked about. I'm going to take questions in a second. So I'm not even going to go deeper in what I'm saying because I'm probably going to say the wrong thing. my X handle is Dre All Day. On X, I'm Dre All Day. So that's the only place I really, when it comes to textual, I will talk about current events. That's really the only thing I talk about on X is current events. So my X is Dre All Day. Brittany, can you put that name in there? Dre All Day. That's my X name. So any of you who uses X, some of you still call it Twitter. That's where I talk about that stuff. The replays of this you can find on YouTube, and make sure you follow me on at least Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Rumble. I'm missing one other, Facebook. So here's the thing about, actually, let me just go to comments before I even talk anymore, because I think I'm gonna say the wrong thing and then they're gonna suspend me on TikTok for another week. So let me just get the comments and maybe we'll revisit this conversation and I'll talk about more points that I didn't get to here. Let me start on YouTube, then I'm gonna go to Instagram, then I'm gonna go over to YouTube and all these other ones over here. Then I'll go to Instagram, then I'll go to TikTok, then we'll wrap this up. Because if I keep talking, I'm gonna say the wrong thing. At least by TikTok's rules, the wrong thing. So over on YouTube, O-Dog says many OB-GYNs haven't been trained on natural birth, nor have they seen one in person. I agree. Well, see, they won't. I think a lot of them don't do it because they've been trained to do it the other way. So I believe that they believe they're doing the right thing because they were trained to do it that way. And another thing about the pharmaceutical companies, I guess TikTok doesn't care when I talk about the pharmaceutical companies. They care when I start talking about the government. So I got to be careful talking anything government, like executive branch related on TikTok, because they tend to not like that. And I have personal experience to know that they don't like that. So y'all want me to really get deep on the government, y'all going to have to follow me on YouTube because I won't be able to do that on TikTok. So anyway, the medical system is mostly, if not all, fear-based. Yes, it is. And another thing, I don't think I mentioned this, medical schools. Any of you went to medical school? Medical schools and the textbooks that medical students read are funded by, guess who? Pharmaceutical companies. Pharmaceutical companies fund medical schools. So, of course, you come out of medical school thinking that you're doing the right thing because the textbook said it. So, O-Dog said, what's that word you said there? SATURNALIA. O-Dog, what does that word mean? I don't know what you're referring to there. O-Dog said, oh, you meant what Christmas means to the West. Oh, all right. I got what you're saying. I think I followed your next comment. I got it. Nothing but facts says a dollar speaks in America while it should be morals instead. Yes, I generally agree with you. Nothing but facts. I think they should both speak. I think the dollar does matter. I mean, you need money to live. Someone said, do I ever see morality taking place over the dollar again? In America, the only way that would happen in America, morality taking precedence over the dollar, is if our entire system collapsed. And if our entire system collapsed, there's going to be a lot of blood and death. So yes, it could happen, nothing but facts, but we, like me and you and us who are here, we might not survive to see the aftermath. That's what I would say. Our entire system will have to collapse. And that means blood in the streets, if you get what I'm saying. I literally mean literal blood in the literal streets. So any of you who's not a Second Amendment follower or you can't physically fight and defend yourself and your family, you won't live to see what happens afterwards. It will happen, but you won't be around. And your bloodline might not be around to see it. So yes, it can happen, but that's how it would have to happen. Everything would have to fall apart. Alonzo, yes, you were right about that. O-Dog said, I've been seeing a lot of ads for HIV. Yeah, I bet. MC said, I bet Will Bonner Smith got a big bonus for bashing Kyrie. I don't know if they got a bonus. I mean, they're just doing their jobs. They're already getting paid. So they just said, if you want to keep, this is what the bosses say. If you want to keep your job, do what I tell you to do. You don't want to do what the boss says, you get fired. So they both did what the boss said. O-Dog said, I applied to medical school twice. There's a lot of propaganda in textbooks. Did you get in? What happened? Did you get rejected or what happened? O-Dog. Why did you not? Did you get in? You said you applied. So I'm assuming you didn't get in or you did. Maybe you got in the second time. Prudence Parlay, what's going on? Good morning over there on Instagram. O-Dog said you didn't get in. What was the reason you didn't get in? Did they tell you why if you get rejected? I never applied to medical school. I got a 4-year degree and I said no more. No more of any of this. Soul Art said we went home from the hospital next day after labor because me and my baby were doing great. They wanted to keep me there another day, which would have been an additional $5,000. Yeah, exactly. So it's either you're paying or your insurance is paying, but they're making money off this. It's a system. So the good thing about systems, folks, is that they work over and over again the same way, and you don't even notice that they're doing it. So the medical system, the education system, the legal system. So if you don't like a system, you got to find out the inner workings of it and why it works. These systems work for a reason. One of the reasons that they work is most people don't understand that they're even in the system. People call it a system, but they don't kind of ask themselves critically, why is this a system? How did it become a system? How is it working against me or how is it working for me? Crespo said, I worked in the hospital, saw a lot of stuff. I question everything. Good. You should question everything. Brandon said, I feel like before the virus, many people would let the doctor do whatever, and the virus opened some eyes. Yes, the virus did open some eyes. You are correct about that. Crespo said, the country, I mentioned it earlier, but I won't say it, said it has a caste system. That's correct. America still has a caste system, but you can get out of it. Other countries, you can't get out of it. Soul R said Christmas is about gifts and buying stuff. Correct. Exactly. And many people don't even go to church on Christmas, even though that's allegedly what it's about. Food in moderation, like RFK was having McDonald's. I don't think he actually ate that McDonald's. I think that was just a photo. I think it was a troll because I think it was Don Jr., Trump Jr. He said, make America healthy again starts tomorrow. So it was kind of a joke. Everybody knows that RFK's whole thing is health. So he's like 70 years old and he's ripped, right? So I think it was a joke. Crespo says the prison is full of poor people. Yes, it is. Yes, if you have money in America, you not anything, but a lot of things. If you have money, you can stay out of the legal system, or you can get in it, but you can get out. You can buy your freedom. Freedom has a price tag in America. Brandon said everything we know is a lie, basically. Not everything. It depends on what you know. That's what I would say. It depends on what you know and how you came to understand it. Soul Art said morally bankrupt people can go very far in the USA. Yes, they can. Yes, they can. Doesn't mean everybody who goes far is morally bankrupt, though. I will add that caveat in. Brandon said, I feel bad for Kyrie. Yeah, they went at him hard. Swag Porter said, I hit you in the DM. All right, my assistant will check it later. All right, so let's get on to the comments over on TikTok. You got something, go ahead and post it. And Brittany, you can start pinning comments, and I'll respond to them. Artist Mama said, carbs make you tired. Yeah, that can happen. Depends on the quality of those carbs, but you're right about that. Carbs can come in many forms. It also depends on what's in those carbs. You're right about that. Kathy, appreciate your engagement here today. Irma, thank you for the rose. Earl Lewis said, when you bring salts and not the water, the water to process. I don't know what you're referring to there. Probably something that I was saying in a moment. Latifa said, I heard they can buy stickers to put on their vegetables. I don't know who you're talking about. Brittany said, EWG.org is where I go for the safest products. I never heard of that. What's EWG stand for? Katie said, the government subsidies regulate the cattle and farms so they can control the food supply and content. Yeah. So the documentaries about that, any of you watch any of those food documentaries? So you got things like, there's one called Forks Over Knives. There's several. I watched there's another one called What the Health. I know I watched that one. And there's a few others that I watched. I just can't remember the names of them. But any of you who's watched any of those documentaries about how the food system in America, please post the name of the documentary in the comments on TikTok so I can point them out. I just don't remember them. Traditional All Day says nothing tastes the same anymore. Nothing. That's a good point that you made. Any of you ever traveled to another country and you ate the fruits, the vegetables, the pasta? Any of you ever done that? Any of you ever been to another country and you ate an apple or a banana or some pasta or some meatballs, and you compared it to the food that you eat here in America? It tastes completely different. One of the reasons that the fruit tastes different is because the soil that their fruit is grown in another country, let's say, what's one that I can get away with saying? Italy. You grow fruit in Italy. The soil that fruit is grown in is way different than the soil we have here in America. The soil we have here is injected with all kinds of junk for years, like pesticides and things like that by the time we eat our fruit, even the organic stuff, it has stuff in it that's not supposed to be in it because the soil has that stuff in it. But over there, they don't do that to their stuff because it's not all about the dollar. And I could talk about the dollar so much here, and I might as we keep talking. Fed Up is another one. Zipper Suit, thank you for putting that. There's another documentary called Fed Up. Go watch these documentaries, folks. Y'all can find these. Some of you can find them on YouTube, but others like Netflix, Amazon, etc. And the food tastes completely different because the stuff that it's grown in tastes completely different. The whole system is different. And then I didn't even get into things like seed oils and all that stuff, all the stuff that gets ingested in the food. Again, we can talk about this for hours. I'll probably do another one talking about the health system. Monica, sugar-free. Yes, that's another one. Monica Dennison says sugar-free. You can call something sugar-free even though it has sugar in it. Yeah, so a bunch of you said that. Artificial sweeteners. Yes, there's a bunch of artificial sweeteners that don't call themselves sugar. Like anything, this was someone told me about 10 years ago. She said, Dre, anything that has an ingredient, read the ingredients. If it has an ingredient that you cannot pronounce or you don't know what it is, then you're probably putting some chemicals in your body and you probably shouldn't eat it. And if we all went off of that, none of you would ever eat processed food ever again in your life because all of it has stuff in it that you either can't pronounce or you don't know what it is. So if you can't pronounce something and you don't know what it is, why would you eat it? Again, that's the same question I asked people when they took the jab. You don't know what's in it. Why are you putting it in your body? You don't even know what it is. Why would you do that? So O-Dog said GPA and MCAT scores kicked me out of the algorithm. GPA was too low. MCAT wasn't high enough to compensate for my low GPA. Oh, so that's the one place in life where the GPA matters is getting into medical school. I didn't know that. So I'm glad you told me that. O-Dog. Kathy said the junk food market only exists in the USA. Yes, exactly. I mean, they have junk food in other countries. I've traveled to a lot of countries and ate junk food in those places, but it's not nearly as big as it is here. Like I had to go looking for junk food in other countries. Here, they find you. Queen A said they call it light. Yeah, calling something light is a word game that they play. And then they get to sell it to you. That's the thing. It's not that they play the word game because I could play word games with my own products. But the fact that the government allows the companies to market this stuff heavily, that's the part that can be fixed. RFK can fix that. The problem is they're going to fight. They're not going to just allow that to happen. Traditional All Day said he was in the countries to the south of us. I don't know if I can say their name. And the soda tastes different. Yes, it does because they don't put the same chemicals in it. It's the same company, but they have different rules to sell in that country than they have to sell in our country. That's very much correct. Kathy said they'll buy you out and change the recipe. That's another good thing that they'll do. So they'll take a company that's doing things kind of on the up and up. The big company will buy the small company and then they'll just change things up on you and to make it more addictive. So you buy more because if they make it more addictive, you'll buy more of it. They make more money. This is the trade-off of capitalism, folks, is that people will do things for money that they otherwise would not do. Kathy said, no, yeah, I don't know if I can say that guy's name right now. I probably shouldn't say his name. That rapper producer guy that's incarcerated right now on some kind of weird charges. That guy who's from New York, he used to work with a rapper named Notorious B.I.G. That guy, I'm a fan of that guy music wise, but I don't know if I should say his name right now. Jennifer said, yes, you're preaching truth. If you're a moral person, it's hard to excel in America. Now, let me add something to that, Jennifer. Jennifer, what you said, I kind of get it, but I don't want to indoctrinate people with the wrong idea. I believe that you can get very far ahead in America if you're willing to sell your soul for $1. I do believe that. That is not to say that if you get far in America that you definitely did sell your soul. So we got to make sure we balance that out. There are people who are successful who are morally intact and they didn't sell their soul. They are just successful. It doesn't mean everybody who's successful sold their soul. So I want to make sure I'm putting that in there, because the reason why I want to put that in there, Jennifer, is first of all, because I don't want all of you to go looking at everybody who's successful and say, well, they all sold out. That's the reason they're successful. And also, on the flip side, more importantly, I don't want you to say, well, I can't become wildly successful in life because that means I would have to sell my soul to be successful. I don't want to sell that idea. That is not true. So, Jennifer, I'm not saying you said that, but I want to make sure none of you takes that away from my message. That is not what I'm saying. You can become wildly successful and still keep your morals intact at the same time. And this is something I've heard other people say this over the years, that when you watch like cartoons and movies, you notice that the bad guy in every movie is usually a rich guy. Y'all notice that? When you look at cartoons, TV shows, movies, action films, even stuff made for adults, notice that the bad guy in every movie is never some poor, broke person living in the ghetto. The bad guy is always somebody with a whole bunch of money. Now, why is that? Is because the system of America in general is designed to indoctrinate us to believe that making a whole bunch of money means you must be a bad person. Now, again, I said there are ways people can make a lot of money by being a bad person, but it doesn't mean that you must be. Okay, so everybody clear on that? I don't want anyone getting that confused. Do not think that you got that from me. You can become wildly successful while keeping your morals. But America does teach us that being a bad person is the way that you make money. So like Scrooge McDuck was a bad person, or who's another person that was rich, but they were the bad guy. Every movie is like that. Ocean's 11. You remember Ocean's 11? And Terry Benedict, who was played by, who's the guy that played Terry Benedict in Ocean's 11? Like his real name? What was that guy's name? The guy who played Terry Benedict in Ocean's 11, he was the bad guy, right? And he was the guy who was this morally bankrupt guy. He stole George Clooney's wife, who was that Jessica, what's that woman's name? The actor? I forget. I don't know these actors' names. He stole George Clooney's wife. That guy, he was rich, right? He was the bad guy, but he was rich. So you notice that in many movies, the bad guy is always some person with a whole lot of money. Bad guy's never broke. Bad guy always has money. That's conditioning, folks. They're poisoning your mind to have you think that you can make a lot of money and be a good person. All right, so I said that 5 times. I want to make sure all of you got it. Yeah, Cheyenne, I'm one of the V companies. That's correct. Kathy, I'm speaking your language. Good. A traditional all day say you used to work for that company making meds. I mean, it's a good job. I'm pretty sure it's a good job. There's a lot of money to be made in those companies. They will never go broke. Again, that's why they're going to fight. They're going to fight RFK. Anything he tries to do, they're going to fight. Casey said, we only know this stuff when we research, or if you listen to someone who does the research. I personally don't do a ton of research myself. I just listen to a lot of people who do the research, and they have teams of people who do the research. So that's a shortcut. I don't do the research myself, but I get it. Kathy mentioned Ozempic. Yeah, and people, you got a lot of people taking, I heard they even have kids taking that stuff. That's crazy. George said news is 90% pharmaceuticals. Life Coach 110 said, I love this platform starting every morning with your information. Love Biggie's music. I love Biggie's music too. And if we compliment Biggie, we got to compliment the guy who is producing his music. But I'm afraid to say his name right now. But y'all know who I'm talking about. All right, let's see. I never took the jab, never got the virus. I didn't take the jab either, Latifah. I think I had the virus. I don't know if I had the virus because I never took a test. I think it was the virus, and I had it for like 1 day. But my son's job made them take it. Yeah, see, that was the issue, is that they made people take it. Who owns Big Pharma? What family? That I don't know the answer to. I don't know if that's a rhetorical question. I don't know. Who owns it? You tell me. Someone asked that Ham, when a football player ever say why? No, he never said. He never answered. So we don't know. Kathy said, like Taylor Swift's boyfriend. Yeah, that guy. He did go and push for that. So thank you, Brittany, telling people to tap to get the likes up. Oh, that's the likes that I'm looking at up there. So it says 13.9 thousand likes. So thank you for everybody who's giving me likes here while I'm talking. Modern Sabrina said the country to the north of us is taking ingredients out of their products as of right now. Yeah, a lot of companies do that. All right, so I'm jumping around in the comments because sometimes things jump on me. So if you posted something I didn't see it and you want me to see it, just post it again. Don't spam it, just post it again. And Brittany, just pin anything you see that looks good so I can see it. I'm just scrolling through right now just to see what y'all are saying. Trey said his messages don't take medication because of conspiracy. You talking about me or you talking about someone else? Kathy said that's why DeSantis was vilified for going after Disney. Yes, correct. Because Disney gets a lot of money from the pharmaceutical companies, and Disney also has a lot of pull. They got a lot of reach. They're a very big company. Scarlett said they did not say that. Did not say what? That if you take the jab, you won't get the virus? Oh, they absolutely did. I don't know if that's what you're referring to, Scarlett, but they absolutely did. That one is indisputable. Joy said, yes, which is stupid because that's scientifically not how that works. LOL. Right. I understand that. And a lot of people then use that as a defense. But the general idea was if you take this, you won't get that. That was what was told to us. And Carter said, no, they didn't. Oh, they said it. There are compilation videos of 20, 30 people on mainstream TV saying exactly that. If you take this, you will not get the virus. That is, again, that's not even disputable. Kathy said Rachel Maddow almost lost her ish with that lie. Yes, they did. Scarlett said, they said if you take the jab, you will not get the virus or will lessen the effects. That's what they said after it became obvious that the first thing they said was a lie. Then they changed the story, is what happened, Scarlett. So it's two pieces here. First, they said, take the jab, you won't get the virus. That's what they said when the jab first came out, when everybody was taking the first shots. Then when it became obvious that taking the jab did not stop the virus, then they changed the story to if you take it, it will lessen the effects. That's what actually happened. So they told two different stories is what they did. Rosh 1800 said about drinking bleach. No, he didn't say that. Tim said most of our foods are banned in other countries. Yes, they are. No, he didn't say drink. Trump did not say that. The mainstream media told you that he said that. But if you listen to the actual statement when he mentioned bleach, you see that that's not what he said. But most people don't go get the context. So anytime they tell you that Trump said something, this is some research that you all can do. And they do this with Trump and anybody around. So next time the mainstream media tells you that Trump said a thing, just go look up the clip of him saying that thing and listen to what he actually said, then compare that to what they told you. What they do is they take it out of context and say he said this, but they don't tell you what he said before that or what he said after that or the context in which he said it. This is known as propaganda. When you take a fact out of context, that is called propaganda. Kathy said Merck and Purdue families. Oh, yeah, Purdue. They own the biggest companies. There are documentaries on it. All right, that's a good point, Kathy. Merck. I knew some people who worked for Merck. And Purdue, I never knew anybody who worked for them. But yes, you're right about that. So somebody asked, what medical school do I go to? Zero medical school. Why are you asking that question? Someone said, can't even pronounce V. No, I'm not even saying it. I'm not saying the V word specifically because of the platform that I'm on, the one that I'm looking at the lens right now. I'm not saying that V word because of this platform. They've given me warnings. That's why I'm not saying it. Modern Sabrina said, not the truth. I don't know what you're referring to. Let's see. Earl Lewis said you admitted earlier with the money in the judicial system. Admitted what? Artist said, my dentist is constantly trying to do extra procedures and upsell me on everything. Now, the good thing is a dentist, though, dentist is more on the private side. So you can kind of pick the dentist that you want. So that one you can do something about, artist mama. Just get a different dentist. Who's this? CPT said the big trio of pharma, medical, and insurance work together to keep you hooked. Yes, they do. That is 100% correct. Mama C said, isn't it because of the Schmidt-Mundt Act that Obama signed allowing for propaganda? Propaganda did not start with Obama. So, no, we cannot put that on Obama. Obama came in 2008. Propaganda has existed for over a century. So, no, I can't say that Obama did that. Can't say that. Lisa Green said accepted fact versus the truth. Yes. So a lot of people go off accepted facts without finding out the truth. That is correct. Viv said Why still talk about Trump? Promote yourself and your work. Well, I'm doing both. Trump's name draws attention. I'm in the attention business, Viv, so that's why. If I talk about Trump, it draws more attention than if I just talk about myself. There's more of you heard of Trump than heard of me. So if you want to understand it now, I just told you. And talking about current events draws more attention than if I just talk about evergreen topics. That's just the reality of the world. So you don't have to like it, but you can't say it's not true. Scarlett said, facts are not taking out of context. That statement doesn't make sense, Scarlett. That's not grammatically I don't understand what you're trying to say. Mama C said, no, I already answered that. I answered about my X handle. My X handle is Dre All Day. So make sure you find me on X at Dre All Day. Cheyenne said, so all elected officials are frauds? No, that's not what I'm saying. And when you start a statement with the word so, that's a tell for what we call a straw man statement. So be careful with that, Cheyenne. Is that you may be rephrasing something that you heard and turning it into something that was not said. I didn't say that. Now, are some elected officials corrupted? Yes. Are all of them? No. And I didn't say that. I'm Queen A said, I follow you on X and YouTube, especially after the last TikTok mishap. Yeah. And it might be another one. So I got to be careful what I talk about. And Cheyenne said, after watching your lives, I'm believing everyone is a fraud just trying to make more money. Well, that is not the conclusion you should get from this, Cheyenne. It's that some people are corrupted. I don't know, when you say a fraud, I don't know what you mean by that. Some people are corrupted by money. Some people, not everybody. It's just that we have to look into what's happening so we can understand why people are doing what they're doing. So anytime someone's doing something that seems to not make sense to you, all you got to do is follow the money. Find out where the money is coming from, and then it will make more sense. That's what I would say. And listen, everybody's trying to make money. I'm trying to make money too. That doesn't mean I'm a fraud. All right. So making money is not a bad thing. So I don't want any of you to take that away from this, that making money makes you bad or a fraud or corrupted. It's just that many people make money by being bad, fraud, and corrupted. Doesn't mean everybody. As Kathy said, I had 2 natural births and my doctor couldn't believe that I didn't want meds. Yes. I mean, medicines are unnatural. That's the thing about medicines, that they don't naturally occur in the body. You don't need them. Brittany said Rockefeller. Bitcoin. Nicole said, what are my thoughts on cashless society? One of the biggest challenges, this is not my full thought, but one of the biggest challenges of a cashless society is that it can be, what's the word I'm looking for? Like technologically controlled. And if the government gets control of that, they can control you in more ways than one. They can say, all right, here's your money, but you can only use it for this. Or you can't access your money because you said the wrong thing on Instagram yesterday. So that's the challenge of a cashless society, is that the government gets more control, which is why things like cryptocurrencies keep the power in the hands of the people, and just regular cash, just actual cash in your hand. Let's see. A couple more comments, then we'll drop this off. We'll end this. I gotta go to the bathroom. Let's see. Kathy said private prisons incentivize crime. Interesting. We can't do a whole conversation on that right now, but I get it. Jessica said medical system is the biggest employer. Very big employer. You're right about that. Jay Ross asked about that guy, that entertainer who's locked up right now. Will he get bail? I don't know. We'll see. Yes, I'm live on X right now. Tim, I am live on X. My X live feed is over here. So I'm YouTube, Rumble, X, LinkedIn, Facebook over here, Instagram right here, and TikTok over here. So yes, my live is on X. Ty said, I lived in Paris for 7 months, ate bread everywhere, and lost weight. Yes, because that bread is completely different than the bread we eat here. You're right. Victoria said, nothing tastes the same, even the meat. Exactly. What I think about plant-based meat, what do I think about it? Sometimes I eat it because I get plant-based meals delivered to me. But I actually just told my people to give me some regular meat mixed in with some plant-based, like different meals. So what I think about it, I don't know. I don't have one simple answer that I can give you to that. I think it depends on the quality of how it's made. Each company is different. So that's what I would say. Tim said, much respect for your opinion and honesty. Thank you. Will said, what's a good book to read for a 16-year-old? Or what's the 16-year-old focused on, Will? That's the Willis Curtis. What is the 16-year-old focused on? I can give you a better answer if I know the focus rather than the age. Ty said junk food is not nearly as bad in other countries. I agree. You're right. Tim said most of our cereals are banned. That's correct. Exactly. China said everyone's a fraud. No, they're not. China, that's I don't know what I would call that. Fatalistic. No, that's not the right word. I don't want you to think that way. I already addressed that, but I see some of your other comments. Life Coach said, I love this platform. Yeah, I saw that. Thank you. Modern Sabrina said you didn't say anything negative. Yeah, Garcia, that's his name. Andy Garcia. That was what was his name? Terry Benedict in Ocean's 11. Yeah. You notice he was rich though. He had all this money, but he was a bad guy. That's what they do in every movie. If you watch movies, you'll notice that. Every bad guy has a whole bunch of money. That's conditioning. They're conditioning you to believe that making money means bad. No limb gel, thank you. Casey said, depends on what's in it. We shouldn't be having too much soy. Some say, see, the interesting thing about, Julia Roberts, that was her name. The interesting thing about the food industry is that you can find a study that can pretty much verify anything you want to believe. You can find a study that says seed oils are bad, and then you got people who say seed oils are not bad. And you got people who say eating carbs is bad, and you got people who say eating carbs is not bad. You got the no carb diet, then you got the eat carbs all day diet. You got the low fat diet, then you got people saying eat fat. You got people saying don't eat meat at all. Then you got people saying eat only meat and don't eat anything plant-based. And you got people saying only eat plant-based and look how healthy I am. You got other people saying I eat meat all day and look how healthy I am. So the interesting thing about the human body is that it's so adaptable. Every body is unique. So there's no one right way, but there are some things that we can agree on. And we can't all agree on, like there are people out there who eat carnivore, which is like meat all day. There are other people who are vegan and they eat plants all day and no meat, and both of them are healthy. So there's no right or wrong answer to that specific part. All right. So we the people are not going to allow generations to suffer taking prisons any longer. I don't know what you're referring to with that. Life Coach says, I work for myself. My best friend who's an RN lost her job, wouldn't take the jab. Yes, that happens to a lot of people, especially in the medical space. Family in the UK, the UK doesn't have half the diseases we have in America. Yeah, because we put a lot of junk in our bodies. We create stuff. Again, I told you, we're a country of builder. We create a lot of things, but we also consume the same things we create. And some of the things we create is junk. This is just the trade-off. And the reason why we create things is because we can make money creating things. Doesn't mean everybody who creates things is a bad person. Okay, do not take anything I'm saying as this complete. That means everybody who does this is this. Some people who create stuff create junk. And we consume that junk, and that junk hurts us. Doesn't mean everybody. Tim said most of our foods are, yeah, I saw that one. Victoria said, yes, they said it. Yeah, absolutely, they said it. Everybody knows they said it. Again, it's not even disputed. And they changed the story. After it became clear that what they said wasn't true, they changed the story. And Nicole said, I didn't trust the jab. No, why I didn't trust it was because of how hard they were pushing it. I mean, if it's actually going to save my life, why you got to sell me on it? If something's really going to save my life, you ain't got to convince me to do it. So that's what made me question it. Life Coach said, yes, go back and watch the clip. Yeah, there are plenty of clips out there of people directly saying, and these are people in positions, people of status saying this, people in charge saying this. Take this, you won't get that. Marsha, yeah, you're right about that. I don't know how deep I want to go into that rabbit hole. Probably not on this app, not on TikTok. Modern Sabrina, no, he did not say that. You can go find a clip of what he actually said, and I guarantee you it's not that. He did not say that. She's talking about Trump and the bleach thing. Can anybody verify, confirm, did Trump tell people to drink bleach? No, he didn't do that. Now, the mainstream media told you he said that because it sounded funny and it sounded silly, it sounded ridiculous. And it was supposedly making him look bad. But I think people were wise then, but people got even wiser now. So no, he did not say that. Meds that keep giving you natural supplements works better. I would agree with that, Desi. The thing is, the meds, and this is the thing about the medical industry. I will say this. I'm going to take a couple more comments and we'll wrap up. The thing about the medical industry is that it creates shortcuts to fix long-term issues. So if you spend 20, 30 years not working out, not eating healthy, not taking care of your body, and now you have physical problems, the medical industry sells you on this concept that, hey, you can take this and we'll solve your problem. Your problem that you created over 20 years, we'll solve the problem in 6 weeks. So it's a shortcut. And human beings are susceptible to these things because of human nature. If I can get a shortcut to success, if I can get in great shape by taking a pill rather than actually going to the gym and doing the work, why not do it? I mean, down here in Miami, there are girls who I know got their behinds at a doctor, but they're selling butt development programs on their social media. Like, yo, you didn't get that in the gym. You got that at the doctor, but you're selling a 12-week butt development program to other women, even though that's not even how you got yours. This is human nature. It works. All right. So it's human nature. I'm just telling you that people are susceptible to this. So let's see. Dre, could you write a book on how to speak like a lawyer? That's a good idea. I should do that. I should write a book on how to speak like a lawyer. Thank you for offering the suggestion. All right, I'm going to answer a couple more questions because I do have to go to the bathroom. All right. UK food, much healthier. Yes. US food, it could be. No Lim Gel, appreciate you, sir. Robert Greene, 48 Laws of Power. Yes, my favorite book, 48 Laws of Power. But I need to know, that person who's asking about a 16-year-old, I need to know what they're interested in. So many people have side effects. Well, yeah, nobody's going to talk about that. Mainstream media will not promote any story that says anything that sounds like that. Side effect from anything that comes from pharmaceuticals. Bill Gates, not a doctor, but giving medical advice. Well, he has status, so people will listen to him because of his status. Casey said it was out of context. He was talking about UV light therapy. Yes, that's what he was saying. And he wasn't talking about drinking it either. He was talking about an injection. And he wasn't talking about, it was, you had to listen to what he was saying. He didn't even understand it himself. He was talking kind of around it because he had heard it and he was saying it. And people just took what he said, flipped it around and said, oh, here's another dumb thing that Trump said. And people believed it because they don't like Trump. Sessions said very similar to the good people on both sides. Exactly. That's exactly what it was. I don't think any of you really thought that he said to drink bleach. I don't think any of you listened to this, whether you hate Trump or not. I don't think any of you actually believe that's what he said. He did not say that. And none of you actually believes that. It's 2024. Like, please stop it. So anyway, folks, I do these lives Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. Eastern. I am on every other app. I'm on YouTube, Rumble, X, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. And I got a warning on TikTok today. The good news is I got the warning and I did not violate again. So y'all see what I can't talk about here. Let me tell you what I can't talk about on TikTok. I cannot talk about certain countries, especially if they're in a current conflict. I can't say their names and I don't even want to talk about it because I can't do it on here. I cannot talk too much about the government, especially the executive branch. They don't like that when I do that. So I'm not going to do too much of that over here. What else can I talk about? I can't mention certain countries' names. I can't talk too much about all the different colors, red, blue, yellow, green, and how they put it on the flag. I can't talk about that. I'm not even going to try to talk about that over here. All right, because again, I don't think they like that. There are certain people whose names I cannot say, like that guy who's a kickboxer with the bald head. He has a brother and he got kicked off all the social media apps and they called him a trafficker. That I can't talk about him. Can't say his name. Not going to talk about him at all. And there's probably a couple other things I'm not thinking about. I cannot talk about these things on TikTok. Okay, TikTok's listening. They know I can't talk about these things on TikTok. So if you want me to talk about those things, you can let me know. But that's going to be on YouTube. I can do it on YouTube and Rumble and X. I cannot do it over here. Certain topics I cannot touch on TikTok. And when it comes to like the highest level of government, like the executive branch, y'all saw I was doing it today. I got a warning. Luckily, I didn't violate again. I caught myself and said, let me just change the subject. So y'all see what I can get away with and what I can't get away with over here. So y'all need to understand that. I don't mind talking about anything. I'll talk about any subject. I don't care what it is, where it is. But certain things I cannot say on here, they're going to kick me off. And a lot of you have come to find me through this app. So I want to stay on it. That's the reason why I don't violate their rules. So we did get the 15K likes. So Brittany, thank you for pushing people to do that. We had 16K likes on this live here today. Someone said those men are good people. Well, actually, I do like their stuff, but I can't talk about them. I cannot talk about them. Living the Fun Life says so much for freedom of speech. Well, you got to understand, well, who owns this app? This app that I'm looking at right now, do y'all know where this app is based out of? All right. They don't have the same laws as we do. So your point, I understand, but your point is misdirected because they don't operate by the same rules. And anyway, other apps, they censor as well. And when you're on somebody else's platform, you got to play by their rules. So you don't have free speech when you're on somebody else's platform. It's like somebody can't come in your house and just say what they want to say unless you kick them out. So One other thing I'll tell you before we wrap this up, Work on Your Game University is where I do my business. If you'd like to have me as your direct coach, I think all of you have a pretty good feel of my style, how I help people, how I talk, how I break things down, how I explain them. Our coaching clients, people who have been with us the longest and like ourselves the most, say, Dre, we like the fact that you're straight to the point, no BS, no fluff, and you're really clear in explaining things. You break things down very well. And I work with entrepreneurs, salespeople, people who want to start a business, people who already have a business, professionals who are looking to step up your confidence, your discipline, your mental toughness. Work with all those different types of people. You can go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. It's the link in my bio. Or you can email me. My email address is on a couple of these apps. So you can send me a DM if there's no email. There's a link or an email or a DM. Every app that's watching me right now, you can either email me, DM me, or go to that link. All right, one of those is available at least on all of these platforms. Again, we do these lives Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. Eastern. So tomorrow I'm doing this on a Friday. If y'all are watching this live, y'all know that replay is on Friday. So next live will be Monday. Don't know what we're going to talk about yet, but I got a lot of things. I do need to trash Black Lives Matter. I told you I was going to do that. I will trash Black Lives Matter. Maybe we'll do that Monday. Maybe we'll do it another day, but that is on the docket. And we got a bunch of other things we'll get to. Shout out to everybody. Thank Brittany, who is in it. Just give a thank you to Brittany on TikTok. She's the one who's been moderating the comments and pushing you all to like this live. We got 17,000 likes on this live. So thank you to Brittany, my expert moderator. She's been moderating with us this week. Hopefully we keep her around and keep doing that. And I really need to go to the bathroom. So thank you, Brittany. Thank you for that. Any of you need anything from me? I told you, email, link me, or hit me in the DM. I gotta go to the bathroom. Everybody have a great Friday. We are out of here. Work on your game.